Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So this is a bipolar life update. So I was diagnosed with major depression in 2015 with bipolar disorder at the beginning of 2016. So now we're partway through 2017. So it's been about 2.5 years with my diagnosis. I've gone off medicine 3 times every year. I completely go off my medicine impulsively for no reason. It honestly scares me thinking about the future because I want to be at a place where I am able to stay medicated and be balanced. I calculated it, and every 5 months I go off my medicine, then for 5 months I'm on my medicine. For most of this year I was off of medicine. I went off around February. In the past, when I've gone off my medicine, I've immediately crashed into severe depression, but this year I was more hypomanic and I was pretty okay off of medicine. The reason I went off of medicine is just because it got very overwhelming processing my diagnosis. I know I talk about it a lot in my videos and I might come across like I'm okay with being bipolar, and I even talk about the positives of it and how it makes me more creative and intense, and I try to have this positive perspective on it and on my future. But when it comes to how I actually think about it, I cry a lot. Earlier this year, I would just cry myself to sleep very intensely. It's just kind of terrifying and daunting being diagnosed with a chronic illness in your early 20s that you have a 1 in 4 chance of dying from, of killing yourself from. You can also die in mania from doing reckless things. I don't think I've ever shared this on here, but last summer I was in a really bad car accident because I was running through red lights when I was manic. I was in the driver's seat. I was a second away from having a car like go like that into me. So that was a time when I almost died being manic. Sorry this video is so negative and dark, but this illness definitely is. So this was the first year where I was fully comfortable with my diagnosis. I wasn't doubting like, oh, what if I was misdiagnosed? What if this isn't real? That ended at the end of last year. So going into this year, I'm just much more comfortable with it. I feel like I fully accepted it. So I just basically stopped doing treatment at the beginning of this year. I stopped going to my therapist. I stopped going to my psychiatrist. I started becoming more manic even on meds, and then I obviously liked it, so I went off meds. But I think my main motivation for going off was just I hated having to take a pill every night. It just constantly reminded me that I'm sick, that my brain is weak, and I hated the idea of needing a medicine to stabilize myself. I just wish, why am I not like everyone else? So the number one thing I noticed going off meds is I felt like I was constantly outside of reality. Not completely outside of reality, just a tiny bit, but I felt like I couldn't remember the past. Like I felt like my brain was not recording my life, was not recording memories. I kind of felt like there was fog around me when I thought of my past. So I was disconnected from the day before or a couple days before. There were just really basic things that I wouldn't remember. At the time I was being super black and white in my thinking, and I thought that going on medicine would erase my personality. I thought that the only way to feel like myself would be to be living in a way where I wasn't able to remember anything. I'm on a new medicine now called Trileptal that allows me to feel like myself and to remember my past. So that's the thing that I've really learned. There are 7 or 8 different mood stabilizers. Depending on the dosage and your brain, you'll react in different ways. So just because one medicine makes you feel numbed emotionally and not yourself, others will do something completely different. So I went back on medicine in July, and I found a new psychiatrist, and I told her that I was scared of numbing my emotions, and she's like, oh yeah, of course, you can work with me to get the right dosage. So she seemed to understand that I didn't want to be like, no emotions completely erase my personality, and that made me really confident going on the medicine. Earlier this year, when I was existing in more of a hypomanic state constantly, I'd say that the worst part was at night. I would not be able to fall asleep a lot, so it would be like my heart was beating so fast, or I would just, if I was editing a video, I would be so like energized and passionate and so focused on it that I wouldn't be able to calm down enough to fall asleep. And if someone would text me at night, or I would be talking to someone who was very energized, that mood and that emotion would kind of rub off on me and make me go a bit more manic to where I could not fall asleep. And that's just something I've heard a lot with bipolar. It's like your body does not set its own circadian rhythms of when to wake and when to go to sleep. It's just like the hormones are so out of whack that you have to set your own circadian rhythms. You have to work out at the same time every day, eat at the same time every day, like have a bedtime routine to calm yourself down. And that was just something I honestly wasn't able to do perfectly because I had this crazy art lifestyle where I was writing all the time, filming, editing videos. But like what I said at the beginning with processing the diagnosis, it was honestly really nice being off meds and not having to take them every day. I felt like I had kind of a mental break from having to process it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I almost like tried to forget I was bipolar in a medical sense. I don't know, I never really forget I'm bipolar, but I stopped freaking out about it and analyzing it, and I started viewing it as less of a big deal and more chill. Obviously, it's unhealthy to ever be off meds, but that was my thinking at the time. Earlier this year, in January, I wrote a memoir about bipolar, and I have like 100 pages single-spaced written on my computer, and I really want to make it into a book and get it published. But it was so traumatic and triggering writing it and remembering everything. I was trying to go through and edit it about a month ago, and I would just start like sobbing, reading about everything I experienced in depression, with feeling like I completely lost connection with myself, losing my brain, being exhausted all the time. Depression is hell and horrible. I've made videos about memory loss and depression, so I have complete memory loss unless I try so hard to remember it. I got the idea to write the memoir when I was manic. I still have the journal, I have it here with me, but I just started writing around 11 p.m. until 4 a.m. just like writing with a pen on paper, all the ideas for it, and then I just worked on it a lot and I wrote a lot of it out. So I think that the main update from this video is that I try to forget the bad parts because it's too much for me to handle. I think there does come a place where it's good to process really dark and traumatic things and to talk about them, but then there also comes a time to step away from it because you can't keep ruminating in the pain. That doesn't really help. It doesn't do anything. But then tiny things will remind me of it, like I'll read a journal entry from when I was in depression, or I'll see a comment on one of my older videos, and just like watching, you know, a minute into a video talking about depression, it's just shocking to me that that was me, that happened to me. It feels like a different girl because of the memory loss. Like I feel so disconnected from that. I'm shocked that I lived through that and was able to just endure for so long and be content with being in that state. I feel like since the spring I have come alive again. I've been doing a ton of reading. My mom joked earlier this year that I created my own grad program because I was always reading books and like writing all over them and coming up with all these ideas. My YouTube channel was super intense this year. I was uploading 3 times a week, almost every single week, tons of editing. That was because I was more manic. Some of my videos I uploaded were like 40 minutes long because I was in more of a manic state. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but you can probably tell from my YouTube just week to week what kind of state I'm in. I feel like I also healed so much this year. Last year was really bad because I finally got balanced on medicine last May, and then in June I completely went off all my medicines, crashed back into severe depression, and then I was in depression for a lot of that year. I felt like I had no solid sense of self. It was terrifying. And so then I thought for a while that because my bipolar had come out full-fledged, like fully come out, that once I was on medicine, I had kind of lost the intensity of my personality. Like I feel so strongly, and I thought that I'd have to medicate away my personality in order to stay safe. So I was just praying a ton because obviously I don't want to lose myself. So then around February or March, I remember the week when I felt myself start setting back in and I felt like myself again. The first thing I noticed is when I started crying again, because I cry when I'm happy, when I'm peaceful, when I'm sad, when I'm angry. I cry a lot. It's just me. And so when that started happening again earlier this year, that's when I knew myself was coming back. And the first few weeks when I felt my full emotions coming back, and it wasn't mania or depression, it was just like my personality. I remember thanking God so much every time I cried, even if it was painful crying, because I was just so grateful that I was able to be myself again. Because depression is numbness, no emotion, so just being able to feel again, it was like I was melting and I was finally able to be me. So that was the best thing that happened this year, fully coming out of severe depression, and I'm very confident that I won't have another major depression episode for years, especially since I'm on medicine. This year I'll go into slight depression for a few days, but it's super slight and I'm able to fight through that and it goes away after a while. I've been really focusing on getting 9 or 10 hours of sleep at night. That's been obviously making the biggest difference in making my mood stabilize and not putting me into depression. Obviously it's taking a huge risk being off medicine. I'm really glad that I'm back on medicine. It makes me feel more peaceful, and I don't have any anxiety about going into depression or mania. I've also completely gotten my relationship with God back. It's been amazing because I felt like when I was in depression, I didn't feel God's presence at all. I would have the spurts of mania where I would be able to feel God, but this year being able to have my personality back, my emotions, I'm able to read my Bible a ton and pray and really grow from that rather than feeling like spiritually stunted. So I've been going to church a ton, reading my Bible a lot, doing theology research, reading about the early church, and it just feels like that part of my life has completely come alive again, and it's vibrant, and I feel so strong in God. And it's amazing being able to pray so intensely for other people, seeing God intervene, seeing all these interconnected Bible passages, and just being so excited for that part of my life again. So this year involved a lot of avoidance, wanting to sort of run away from the diagnosis, but also fully accepting it, surrendering, going back onto medicine, and finding myself again, being able to go back to being myself again. I think that what depression taught me though is to care way less about my emotions. I think that true love and passion for anyone or anything in your life is when you feel zero emotion towards it, you don't care at all, you're maybe even repulsed or exhausted by it, but you put effort into that activity or that person anyways because you know intellectually that you care about it. That's what I learned from depression, when you have no emotion but you're still caring about something or someone. I also realized that despite what I'm feeling, the intentions of my heart always stay the same. So that was super comforting when I felt like I completely lost myself. I also have established a really solid workout regimen. I have abs, I have for the past like 6 months or something, so that's super exciting. Working out has been a huge comfort and a stress reliever. I will make a lot more videos about bipolar disorder. I'm gonna try really hard to work on my memoir to not get triggered by it. I'll like pray like before and after to like protect myself from the emotions of it. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!